Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the MEC Podcast, hosted by Unified. I'm going to do a lot of eyebrow raises while I do this to really just give engagement. I'm Travesty, and today I'm joined by Shibby and Mac Dewey. We're here to talk about the Midwest Esports Conference, week by week, to highlight the players, hype up the matches, and get all the hot takes in one place. Also, eyebrow raises. How you doing, gentlemen?
I mean, it's 3:30 in the afternoon for me. So I mean, it's the day is ending, I guess, for me, right? Kind of, sort of. I know you guys are in the future time zones. Days like at nighttime almost. Max, and like I don't even know where he is right now. He's in an undisclosed container.
I'm in the secret podcasting recording location, you know, Shibby. It's where I get to unwind. I get to not wear my dress shirts. It's just chill vibes for the podcast.
You know, it feels like you got like the leftover lighting from Valentine's Day kind of going on in the background, you know? Like I can, any moment now, you know, I can see some rose petals coming over, you know?
Mac is in an undisclosed shipping container. That's literally where he's at right now.
Where am I?
Guys,
somebody knock on the container.
Wink twice.
So before we get too heavily into things, I do want to go ahead and just bring up the fact that we're going to go ahead and first thing I want to talk about is about MEC, the first half of the season. The first thing that comes up with that is I do want to let everybody know that this is being pre-recorded. So when you're seeing this, the future has came as well. So don't hit me with some stupid Saturday. This happened, okay? Look, we out here. Saturday, Sunday, the 18th and the 19th do not exist just yet. So hold your horses on that one. But yo, we got ourselves some fun ones, and I'm kind of curious to pick y'all's brains because MEC, I casted MEC last season. It was very top heavy last season. This time around, it feels like we got a lot of competitiveness going on here. You guys coming in fresh. How are y'all feeling?
So like this, like you said, I think this is my first split. Obviously, casting MEC. I've done collegiate adjacent stuff, right? Like I think esports U and all of them. Like I've casted some of the other divisions, and I've paid attention to like the massive CLOL championship that happens where all the teams kind of come in. But yeah, this is kind of like my first, obviously, split in the trenches, I would say. And I think MEC is like a really good kind of, you know, area for me, at least. I paid attention to GVU. I was friends with one of the players back then on GVU, Aaron, right? I saw him come up. Obviously, he's gone now, but it's really cool to be kind of like, oh, this is where like a lot of the good players are coming from.
Yeah, and kind of building on that, for me, MEC has been so cool to join. I just graduated from college, so I'm still happy to be able to cast some collegiate esports. And with that, MEC's doing things just so differently from like other leagues, I feel like, or at least because with CLOL, right, you have the main like huge regions of Northwest, East, and South, right, and then some of like the other divisions where it's like a smaller group of teams that really get to face off of each other. Swiss format is trash. I think everyone in our community kind of has that take, and none so more does it anger me than with an entire CLOL season for some of these teams is just like 5 or 6 weeks of Swiss action. So the MEC format as a whole is super refreshing. The teams and players are refreshing in their own right as well. So I've been super excited to, at least through the first few weeks of actions, be able to kind of cover what's been going on here.
All right. Well, look, you guys, you've given me the I'm so excited response. All right. Let's find out what you're really excited about. I want to talk about what has stuck out to you so far inside the first season. I'm going to start off here. Just want to go ahead and bring up, feel free to jump in as you please, right? We don't have to stick with going around in a circle, you know? We can talk about this. We can talk. But for me, I have been really happy with how the jungle pool has looked out in terms of the MEC and also bot lane in general. I had a couple question marks seeing different people coming in, some role swaps that ended up happening across different teams. I have been pleasantly surprised by so much of the MEC in regards to the jungle and AD carry pool across all teams, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think jungle got like a massive. I'm gonna say massive upgrade, but just like how competitive jungle is and the way jungle has changed a little bit, right? Obviously with the new season. I mean the big shot, obviously in the MEC's Trickster, right? He was somebody that came in. Everybody was excited about had a lot of like success in the amateur league or the league below. But people like Castle, Punisher, Aggression, like all these junglers, like you've got to ban out certain picks. Even Onk on like BCU, who busts out the Skarner, right? Like I get excited. I'm a jungle main. I'm biased. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like everybody kind of has their own picks, and like every jungler commands some sort of respect in the MEC. Obviously, some more than others, Trickster and Castle and those guys at the top end. But it's scary, right? It's very scary.
They also command 3 different starters, right? So that's always cool now. You got your Pikachu. I mean, not your Pikachu. There's no Pikachu yet. Oh, they need to add a Pikachu. That's the next patch. Oh,
yeah.
Big brain.
New Pokemon drops.
It's pretty much what's gonna happen, right?
Mid-season update. Add in Pikachu. Let's go.
Yeah.
I myself was a Charmander stan from day one. I think Fire Red and Leaf Green was like my main game that I like grinded through. It was like my first one. Like car rides on the Game Boy. Mark, we have to go into Target. Get off the freaking Game Boy. I'm in the middle of a battle, Mark. Come on. But kind of going back to like the jungle point and just overall how the bot lanes have been doing. Something that's been super what I've been the biggest fan of continuously is not only how flexible these bot laners are considering the recent patch changes and what they've been willing to bring out and play on stage in CLoL. One, I think the extended format gives them a lot of ability to like try out picks and try out different strategies, and we as viewers get to see a lot of cool things like Twitch ADC popping off and having a really stellar performance. Even like we've seen AP Twitch and AD Twitch, and that is just super exciting for me. But also some of how the jungle pathing for these junglers has kind of worked out. Shibby, was it the Purdue Northwest Ohio Northern series where we saw like a level 2 Maokai gank into the bot lane for? Yeah, I think it was either Kai or Purdue Northwest ganking really early in that bot lane, because like game 1 it was like all bot lane focused, and then Purdue was like, wait a minute, we got ISO in the mid lane, maybe we try ganking him a little bit. But regardless, I think that sort of flexibility in both like the pathing and gank potential it has just been super awesome to kind of see unfold, I think, for me.
All right, that's cool. That's fair. You guys feel a little bit too comfortable though, so I'm gonna put y'all in the hot seat real quick. I want y'all to tell me who's been standing out to you. You cannot name OU or GVU. Neither one of the two. You cannot name our 2 top teams. Okay.
You saying
I want a player. I want a player that has stood out to you, that it does not belong to one of those 2 teams.
I mean, we have our like mid-season MVP rankings that's gonna go out when this episode goes out with everybody, so we can talk about that.
Are you gonna spill that right now?
No. I'll say.
Dang, okay, let's go.
There are 3 players that are, I would say 3 players that have really stood out to me. That are not on, like you said, OU or GVU or Ottawa Braves and Grandview. Kai is one of them. He's like head and shoulders above some of the AD carries, right? And you saw what happened last week at the LAN. Kai, when he's put down and like not allowed to play, ONU never seems like they have a chance to win. Anytime this guy is fed, like in my opinion, he's like one of the most valuable players to ONU. He gives them a solidified fighting chance in some of these games.
Is that we're not getting the early MVP sort of look, Shibby? Did you just want to talk about Kai?
I mean, he's one of the players that stood out. Yeah, he's one of the players that stood out. I want to go back and forth. I want to obviously give you guys time to talk about yours. I have 2 more.
Oh, thanks, Shibby.
Of course.
Yeah, you know.
Wow. Shibby cares.
Shibby does care. If there's any color I've had that really cares, Shibby, every time we're VOD reviewing, is like, Mac, how does this make you feel as a play-by-play? And I'm like, how, most of the time it makes me feel really good. Shibby does really care. So.
It's on theme with this week, too, right? We just had Valentine's Day, too, getting right into your heart muscle,
Yeah.
Dude, Matt, it's always funny when we're VOD reviewing. Mac's always like, you're gassing me up way too much right now. I'm like, dude, you killed that call. Like, are you kidding? Like, he had some call with the Cassiopeia where he's like, and she stones them cold. I was like, oh my Lord. That shit gets me hype.
Oh, goodness.
I hear you. I'm looking forward to hearing a montage at some point in time that just has Stone Cold in the background. JR yelling it. All right, Matt, we've been stalling out some time for you. You got time.
I've had some time to marinate. I've got the sauciest player on the Rift in the MEC for you guys. Shout out Mastermind from Drury University, okay? He has the craziest champion pool that I think I've seen so far from any of the MEC players. Now, there have been a lot of players who have played a lot of champions. We've got some oceans in the Midwest, can I say. But I'm talking, even though he kind of entered this game singed, okay, Yone, and then Land comes around, and suddenly his Darius is dunking on every single person. Are you kidding me? Like, Graves in the top lane trying to carry with that. Mastermind has been so fun to watch. I think it was against Purdue Northwest in day 2 of the land. Him dunking on Purdue just brought so much joy to me. And really, I think every time Drury kind of loads up, I'm like, what is this guy going to play next? I can't imagine trying to draft into him or prep around him, but after seeing his Darius this weekend, I think that might sort of pop up on the ban list in the coming weeks, boys.
Like the man with the plan. I love Mastermind Champion Pool. I'm glad you brought that up. You said saucy. I agree. That's pretty saucy. Mine's saucy for a very different reason, okay? I'm going to go to Autofilled Anthony themselves, Tiger Star, over on the other side of the roster. I'm going over to Purdue. They had some roster shift arounds, right? Like, that's not easy to be able to deal with. This player has been moving around and took a game off of what I think a lot of people are going to put up there very high regards to a possible MVP of MEC against Trickster. That is something that cannot be understated, and I value somebody being able to flex. And also, the dude's a natural on the camera. Every time he gets on the camera, he does this like little eyebrow raise every single time. He like gets done answering. He has the mic and he's just like, yeah, I'm Tiger Star.
Are we counting?
See me on the Rift. See me, what up?
Yeah.
You know where to find me.
He's like, I'm taking Scuttle Crab. It's like what? Tiger Star has to be for me. I love watching Tiger Star. If I had to pick a different player, it would probably be like Udon Budon from the same team too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk to him, Travis. Talk to him. Udon, to me, by the way, I think he does so much he does so much, dude. He does so. He's the best.
He's the best support in the league, I think.
I say roaming support. His roams, like, actually he does so much, dude. This guy's like impacting every single lane. It's almost like he's a second jungler. Talk to him. That was my other guy, Udon. It was Udon.
He fun fact, actually, going into this weekend, I haven't checked the stat yet because I usually do my prep on the night that we are recording this. So I don't have the stat updated. But going into LAN weekend, Udon Budon actually had the most assists in the league as a support. Like, hands down. He cleared everybody.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, Travesty, is I think he forces the other support that he's playing to adapt to his style, right? Because they're already positioning bot lane to be sort of safe, and if that support stays in there, they're not getting a lot, and he's impacting the map like across the board, top to bottom, in a really cool way.
I'm with you. I'm with you. All right. We got to move things along. We have that. Is there any team that you guys are kind of keeping your eyes on going into the second half? Anybody you're kind of has put you on notice as we're approaching the midpoint of the season?
Illini, right? I think
that's
everybody's gonna say Illini. Yeah,
Yep.
like I know me and Mac are thinking the same thing. Like the fact that they're coming in and their champion pool, their bottom lane. Travis, you mentioned like we're like kind of blessed with some really good bottom lanes this year. It's so crazy, Newbie and Lubhart, right? Like they're so good. Silas Tristana, like what the fuck? Like what?
That's the mid to support special, is it not?
I do love that there's so many people that are arguing to like play Silas amongst the teams. It feels like Silas is just getting played all over the MEC.
Yeah.
Like we did the stat. I think in the interview, it was either he played 12 unique champions out of 15 games, Newbie, the support, or it was 9 unique champions out of 12 games. Like, it was so crazy. Like, this guy is just like, because he was a mid player, right? So, like, as Max said, he's willing to bring the Silas out, the Annie. Like, he's played so much. I even asked him, like, is the Azir support coming in? Like, what is that going to have? Like, I'm so scared of this guy's champion pool.
Like, think about it, too, right? Our 2 people who have played the most unique champions are auto-filled into support, right? They're role swaps. Like you have I'm a Newbie, and then you also have Coda, who also has an insane champion pool that's been coming out. This is an insane year.
yeah, for sure. And honestly, like I know we have already talked about one newcomer, but I feel like we gotta shout out the other newcomer to the league, Briarcliff. They are kind of pun intended dark horses. Shout out their mascot, who we still don't know. I think it's the Chargers, technically. I've called them Mustangs and Horsies. I think it's technically the Chargers. The ponies. We'll call them the dark horses as well. I don't know. Behind the scenes, I'm curious. And I feel like one of us should reach out, maybe. There might be a story there. But they've been swapping their roster like all over the place. Maces was in the mid lane, went back to top. They're trying to figure out where Ankh kind of fits into their team. They tried putting him on an island into top lane. Turns out Skarner needs a little bit more land and can't really work out that well up in the top lane. It's just not enough space for him to really make it work. But was it on Prankaroo Shibby that he actually pulled him underneath the turret and killed him?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody falls for that nonsense once, right? Like, it's once like, all right, you got me. But I did like their original lineup, right? Like, it just made more sense. Mace's top, Ankh mid, or Ankh jungle, Pete mid, right? I even think, like, in terms of bottom lanes, like Zolani and Belko are pretty good on the right champions, right? Like the Rakan for Belko. I think Zolani is kind of honestly crutched by the Zeri. I think she could play a lot more champions if she wants to. But like they can hang with the best of them, like bot lane wise. I think MEC probably has. I think this is the strongest bot lane like parity that we've seen in terms of like. I feel like anybody can kill like 2v2 kill each other. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And just one more thought about Briarcliff before we move on to the next topic. But Deadpool, aka Autofilled Pete, in the mid lane, in the jungle, put him wherever you want. And this man can carry games. Even if it's just on Viego, put him on Viego wherever you want. This guy's got a crazy Viego. Yeah. And even in the mid lane, he can kind of catch some teams off guard, I feel like. I think it was their first series against Purdue. Purdue is like, yeah, we just kind of fed him in the mid lane. Like, we kind of inted, and they gave him 6 kills, and he made them regret it in a huge way. With a really solid performance. So I think Briarcliff's one of those teams with a lot of potential that's still kind of figuring things out. So in the second half of the season, that's where, it can get really important for these teams having played each other once already or finishing kind of that first cycle of the round robin. I'm curious with how some of these teams, in particular, Briarcliff's going to adapt for the rest of the season.
I also like, you guys did touch on the Maces role swap, and I did want to touch on that. I like the fact that they're trying to move Maces around because they have actually stated that Maces is the shot caller on this team, right?
Mhm.
So it is hard to shot call from top lane. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to do that. It's not fun. You're on an island and then you're trying to clean up everybody's issues by making
It's like
clear, concise
binoculars
calls.
out. You're
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
the hell is going on out here?
Oh,
Why is
what's
everything
happening
on
bot
fire?
lane? Why are you diving them? Get away from that turret! What? Like, no, like, you don't want to do that. You don't want that. It's annoying. So I get it. They're trying to move Maces around, get that shot calling going. For me, it's Ohio Northern. I found myself, I like their bot lane. We already touched on the Kai point. I dubbed King Kai as a nickname in week 1 for the player.
We
'cause they
used
played
it
so
just
well.
a little bit on our end of the broadcast, travesty. I don't know if
He
you
should just
caught
name
any of
swap.
that.
He should just name swap at this point. Like Blonde is doing it every week. Like he just name
That's
swap.
nothing
dude.
new. That's nothing new. Just be ready for that. But yeah, I just want to. I feel like I'm impressed by the bot lane. I want to be impressed by other places of ONU. So mine is met with excitement plus a little bit of skepticism, where it's just like, all right, I want to see some other win conditions. I want to see a different path to victory than a 13-1 Ezreal bot lane, right? Like I want to see what different paths of victory look like for ONU. Nothing wrong with having one clear, concise way to win, but always nice to have more options. That's the thing, though. What 4 teams? We're going into the mid-season. I'm going to ask you guys to put your money where your mouth is. What are you on record right now?
Oh
what
man,
4 teams do you think are making it to Wichita?
I think it's consensus is GVO Auto will definitely make it. I think
Of course, those are easy. Autofill.
I think you got to be smoking the good stuff if you don't put them like
on that Cali stuff.
Yeah, seriously, like if either of those teams fall out of top 4, I think that's just like a colossal collapse, right?
Yeah,
it's just like there's no way they like being like as objective as you can. I think the 3 and 4 spot is where obviously it gets really, really dicey.
Yes.
I like Illini. I really do. I think their bot lane can do a lot of damage. I think as the current standings go, is really that 4th place spot is going to be between ONU and Purdue. And as of right now, I think I lean ONU. I think the top 4 will be the current 4 standings. Unfortunately, I think we're pretty solid. I think Purdue can definitely make a run for 4th place though.
Yeah. And I think as Illini find their groove and continue to kind of improve over the course of the rest of the season, I think I feel pretty good about locking them in as a 3rd seed. But we'll have to see. I think that's one of the things about this division that gets me so excited is that 4th spot is a complete toss-up between ONU, Purdue, and Briarcliff, right? Drury University did get their first win on the season over the course of the LAN and looked pretty good into Purdue. So throw them in the conversation as well. They're down but not out. But for that 4th spot, I'm gonna bold take. I'm gonna lock in Briarcliff as just a shot in the dark. As Mac believes in them to figure it out after the trials at LAN. One of the big things for me about their team is throughout, I think pretty much all stages of the game, they're playing it funny from a pretty solid standpoint. And yeah, I know that's kind of broad. Like, what do you mean fundamentally good at League, But they don't lose. I feel like they don't get stomped out of games too often. And overall, I think they always make it a series, man. It's always a battle against them. And I'm just super excited to hopefully see if they can figure things out for the rest of the season. I'm going to lock them in as a hot take 4th spot here.
I don't know if it's that much of a hot take, though, because they always have a raid boss. Like, that is something that you touched on, right? Like, they always have it to where they don't fall. I think my take is actually relatively bolder. A lot of people probably would have expected me to go ONU, but I'm going Purdue, actually.
Okay.
So Purdue 4. You're on the Purdue side.
I'm thinking Purdue 4. I feel like Ohio is going to make a very close run.
Okay. Yeah.
But as it stands right now,
I wonder if they play in the
Purdue-
last week. I wonder if that's what it's going to come down to in the final week of the regular season.
That's what
I think there's
that's
going
what
to
I
be some
imagine.
shenanigans.
That's what I
think
imagine
there's
it's going to be.
shenanigans.
It's going to be the last week, and that's what's going to
Yep.
get people. Ohio in this last week inside of LAN did not look great when Kai got shut down.
Yeah.
As it stands, even though they Immune to Flame coming in new into this team in the mid lane, they showed that they can play things that you could they kind of played the auto-filled mid champions fairly well, right? Like they played like the Annie and stuff like that, where it's just like, all right, you can play the simple stuff alongside with your team. I'm expecting Immune to Flame to grow from this point forward. My one request is to give me one Fizz game, please. You're a Fizz player. You have over 450 games of Fizz. Give it to me.
Do it.
Give it to me. But I that's going to be my hot take. I think people are sleeping on Purdue because of the fact that they do have a roster change. But if you look at their entirety of the roster, right, they are in the bot lane. They're leading in terms of kills and assists. Like that tells you one whole story right there. Immune to Flame coming in fresh, like they can operate themselves. And then on the rest of the map, if you need to put resources down bot to get your bot lane going, you have that availability because you can play weak side top. So,
yeah.
All right. I think Purdue's getting slept on because of the roster change. I think if Purdue wasn't in this roster change scenario, though, I probably would have put up third, to be honest.
Wow,
were
you don't believe in Illini? Not yet. They haven't proven their worth.
No, I believe in them, but I think Purdue, like when they were gelling as a team, I actually thought that they were going to be able to take a dub off of one of the two top teams, right? Like that's how I felt with Purdue.
Yeah,
I feel like they still could, but it's hard. It's very, very hard. It's a hard road here, especially like a mid-season roster change. It's never easy.
The road to the playoffs is always difficult, Travesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fourth place is gonna come down to the wire. Like I don't.
It's
think
gonna be last week.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be locked till last week, and there's gonna be a lot of weirdness going on.
All right, well, let's go ahead and just real quick talk about the race to MVP. Let's talk about some front runners for amongst ourselves here, as we're kind of figuring out what the MVP is going to be. I'm going to start real quick.
Go ahead. So are we doing it in terms of like gold, silver, bronze, like 1, 2, 3? Because that's how I did my MVPs.
You know what? I can easily do it. We want to just go through all three right now,
unless you just want to talk about the number one. Yeah, I mean.
Well, we can start. Yeah, we can talk about candidates. So let's do number 1, 2, 3. Let's do it. So for myself, right now, mid-season, this is where I'm at. I got Castle at number 1. I've got Trickster at number 2, and I have got Kai at number 3. And to explain my reasoning, I think GVU it actually has a pretty significant weakness that they do have to deal with, and Castle fits as that weakness.
Interesting.
If you notice, GVU's early game can be a little hit or miss sometimes. It's specifically their game against OU that they had to finalize themselves in first place, the closest 2-0 of the season. Castle was instrumental in that series to make things happen. If Castle didn't exist in that game, if you had any other jungler in that scenario, I feel like, unless like they were like destined for pro play, like they are somebody who is a former pro or they have been on a professional team, like something like that, you flop there, you break. Castle did a great thing getting Prank ahead, and if he didn't do that when Nightstar, Mark Gonzalez was struggling on the bot side of the map with the attention that was being shown, that series goes the other direction, 110%. Trickster is a near second for me. Has played probably the most adaptive champion pool besides the support Skarner I saw in week 1.
That was interesting.
That was a trip.
I don't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Oh, I hated it. I'll tell you. I hated it. I was mad. I was like, why is he building this? This item sucks.
Man, every mad scientist has their methods.
I think the item rush was like Evershroud and the McKells, right?
Evan Shroud and McHale's, I think.
Goated.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was mad. That was like you were playing against Garner. That was not. But Kai, and then the other one, Kai's just there because King Kai. I feel like ONU, like you touched on earlier, just a player without Kai. Where do you go?
So that's really interesting, Travesty, because I have the same teams in my 1 through 3,
but different players.
So slightly different. So for GVU, I'm on the prank train, man. That guy, like, honestly,
All
like,
aboard!
I know Max saw mine earlier because we had to submit them, right? Prank number one. It makes so much sense because this guy mastered the Cassante counter matchup, right? He plays the Gwen. In that last series as well, there were moments where Prank was like their win condition against Ottawa, in my opinion. Like, his Jax is nuts, his Gwen is nuts, and like I'm gonna say it, we're in a carry top meta. He plays Camille, he plays the Aatrox into Ornn. This guy even flexed, I think, Sejuani one game top lane, right? Like just the amount of flexibility, and I think honestly, this team secretly runs through Prank. Like, he keeps them in game states to where people have to send 2 people to him, right? Like, you mentioned that first game where Mark or Nightstar, Mark and GV's bot lane, they got like hard camped, right? Like, straight up, they didn't touch the wave until like 4 minutes in. But do you understand, like, the way Prank was playing that game allowed his bot lane to catch up and then allowed them to like get back into that game. I think he's instrumental.
Telling you, castle diff. That was a castle diff, though, bro. That was a castle diff. If castle wasn't there, I'm just saying.
I think it can go either way. I do have Trickster at number 2 as well. I think Trickster 2 is like pretty solid. They run a lot of comps through him. Like, they gave him the Graves. Like, you don't run a Graves through your jungler unless you know he can fucking get the lead with it. And he was like so far ahead of Castle that game, right? In terms of like taking camps, rotating, even when he was pressuring bot. It was just scary. And like, very few teams run like a lot of damage and resources through their jungler. Trickster deservedly gets it. And then like my 3 is Kai as well, just because of the stark difference the team looks, ONU, with or without Kai. And that's kind of like leads into my MVP as to why, how I do my methodology. It's like, how valuable are they to the team? How many wins do they get you? But yeah, it's interesting, Travis. I think we had the same thing. Mac, do you have anything different, my guy?
Yeah. Are you breaking up our tie here?
I think in terms of the MVP race, and for us to kind of sort of tip our feet in the philosophical pool of what it means to be an MVP, right?
I got my toes in there.
I think you have to look at the top 2 teams in this division so far, without a doubt. It would be kind of surprising for me for someone to end up with the MVP trophy and not be on one of those teams. So I'm pretty, I'm not doing any crazy thoughts with my MVP race. Honestly, I think Prankaroo and Trickster deserve to be up there in the conversation. So I'm kind of in the same pool as Shibby in that regard. Though, to be fair, I think me and Chibi haven't really casted too much Ottawa and GVU so far throughout the season, so I hope in the sort of second half we get to see a little bit more of those 2 teams and sort of analyze really, and it's so tough to give that sort of award to a single player when League is very much not a solo carry wins the game type game. But with Prankaroo on the top side of the map, it's a 1v1 nightmare for pretty much all these teams. And with Trickster potentially out jungling you and just taking over the map from that standpoint, I think those 2 guys sort of jump to the top of my list, at least. And then for 3, and this is why I'm glad we talked about which teams we're looking forward to the most in the second half of the split, I'm looking at Lubheart from Illini, who's been absolutely insane. 15 turret plates. He got all of them. He's able to cash in during the early game.
Cemented.
And bringing in those sort of like surprise picks like the Tristana, I think it makes it difficult for teams on paper to be like, okay, what do we need to be worried about this guy? And I think picks like the Tristana make it so that you can't just scale and wait for things to happen in the bot lane. You know, it is sort of from a pressure standpoint, something you have to think about is Leopard just going to run over the game through just sheer lane advantage? And the way they're able to move around him, I don't know who's doing the shot calling, but it's a very interesting team, and Leopard's definitely really stood out from that roster.
Wow.
And that was my toss-up.
I'm surprised, though.
It was between Kai and Leopard for me, and I leaned the Kai
Not
just
Nightstar?
Prank, man! Prank, dude!
You can have more from the same team! There's no rule against that!
It's
you
Prank,
can have
man. Like
MVPs.
And I don't know if Dreher will agree with me or not. Like, he's been really communicative. All the coaches have been really communicative, like, in regards to the questions I asked. But, like, Prank, man, that guy is just... He's fucking scary. There's no other way of putting it.
But look, I'm just saying it's a castle diff, okay? Like, castle is the fortified walls of this team. They don't do nothing if they don't have someplace to sleep after they're done with their battle, okay? That's what castle is. Castle is the home sweet home.
Travis. Would you not want a prank trickster topside? Ask yourself that question. Would you not want a prank trickster topside?
I think that deserves an eyebrow raise.
You know what? I'll keep that. I'll keep that.
You'll take gas. That's fine. That's
take
fine.
Castle. If I have to get rid of a top lane, if I have to get rid of Prey, give me Mace, okay? I'll get Mace. I'll take Castle and Mace. I'll take the minutes of the top lane there. But
that's fine.
I'll switch it around. But heated discussion aside, hey, look, that's what it's all about. We're all passionate about it. There's a lot of people that should be on this list too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it's hard. It's hard. Like I said Nightstar earlier. Nightstar was actually the person I was fighting with Kai. I was just like, man, Nightstar's so good too. Mark Gonzalez is popping off inside of these team fights. So there's just so many players.
40 players? 40 players? We have to choose one at the end of the year. That's the best out of all of them. It's an impossible choice.
Good. Mastermind is good. Like, there's so many great players that just pop into your head immediately. But oh man, that's about it for our time here, though, gentlemen. This is our first time in showcasing that the Midwest is anything but mid. We have a lot of excitement going on. We had some eyebrow raises to start us off. It was good. Oh, yeah, we got the little lip face that you got there. I saw that me doing. Just do a little, you did a little kissy face. Yeah, we got little kisses. I heard the lips pucker on that one. Well, if you want to make sure to leave any suggestions for topics or anything that you would like to hear us talk about, be sure to let us know about it. You can reach us on to our Twitters. They're not here on our screen right now. But, hey, you can reach out to our Twitters. You can find them pretty easily, honestly. Just type in the names and just wander the abyss that is Twitter. Or you could just leave a comment on this video. Let us know exactly what you've got. Who knows? We might read your question out onto this show itself. And also, make sure you tune in for MEC, one of the most exciting places to be able to catch all of the C-LOL action. You'll be able to see all three of us here. Not all three of us on the screen at the same time, though. Two of us, though. Maybe.
Shibby looks good from this side. Usually I'm on the other side of the screen and shit. Seeing Shibby on the other side, it's a whole new world. It's crazy.
Grass is greener.
Yeah, you can't sing that on broadcast either, by the way. That's a copyright thing. But but anyways, thanks everybody for coming in, watching. Make sure you stay tuned. We're on every Saturday and Sunday with MEC action that spawns just about the entire day over at Unified Live on Twitch. And also, interviews get uploaded to our YouTube channel. So make sure you check that out as well. I've been Travis C. I've been joined here by Shibby McDoey. Lads, we're done. We're done. We're good.
Sponsors?
That's it.
Sponsors?
Okay,
Sponsors?
cool.
No,
Guys, sponsors.
No,
All right, I'll do the
go,
sponsors.
go.
Shout outs to all of our sponsors: Audiovisual Design Group, Nodecraft, i3 Broadband, which I know you guys saw during the LAN week, and the 1G baby, the download speed, Zowie, and of course, HyperX. Thank you so much. That was the sponsor read. You guys
We're
can
done!
you don't gotta stay. You don't gotta
Stop
stay.
doing it!